Okay, you saw the title, and you know my name. That's right, we are finally going to address it. Trump's Yandere plan in Iran! And for those of you who have no clue what I'm talking about, that's okay. Let me explain. We are on season 3 of the political yaoi dating simulator where Trump listens to his favorite baby, Bibi, and is convinced to take out the competition, Kamini, which leads to a lot of oiling up, or rather, a lack of oiling up. So of course, the first part, what kicked off this entire thing, and what proved to everybody that Trump really is a yandere, Trump bombs Iran!
The United States military began major combat operations in Iran,
which immediately kills Bibi's competition in the love triangle, Kamini, as you can see from this tweet posted by the official Iran Military Monitor Twitter account, where they say the leader of the Islamic Revolution of Iran, Imam Khamenei, has been martyred, which means he's been murdered. And this is the part where you guys go, Lumie, that's so fast, that's so anticlimactic. Just like that? What were the writers thinking doing this? That's because the death of Khamenei is not the focus of season 3. Rather, it's something that has been hinted at since the very beginning, Trump's favoritism for Benjamin Netanyahu, or as he calls him, Bibi, because for all intents and purposes, there is a much bigger implication that Omega Trump was so bad at all of the harem routes that he gave up on them and turned to the only thing he was good at, sending sugar to his sugar baby, Sugar Bibi, even according to Marco Caretakerio.
And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Now, you might be wondering, Lumie, what is Marco Caretakerio even saying here? I don't understand. What does he mean when he says that? He's saying that Bibi was going to strike Khamenei first, which would lead to Khamenei's BFFs eventually striking the US. And because they knew that, Trump decided to strike Khamenei first before Bibi could, so that there would be no strike on the US. However, that's not what Trump says. He doesn't agree that Bibi was going to strike first. He says this.
You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that.
Now, Marco Caretakerio is supposed to be Trump's caretaker, right? So of all people, Marco Caretakerio and Omega Trump are the two people who should not have differing answers. And this caused a lot of people to be very angry, because if Marco Caretakerio and Omega Trump could not agree, then that implied that there must have been something else that happened that led Yandere Trump to take out Khamenei for his Bibi. And this is not helped by Trump saying this.
If we didn't hit within 2 weeks, they would have had a nuclear weapon. If we didn't do the B-2 attack a number of months ago, they would have a nuclear weapon. And when crazy people have nuclear weapons, bad things happen.
Omega Trump alleges that Khamenei had a ton of yaoi nukes, and he was gonna make the whole world yaoi, and he was gonna make the entire United States, Trump's nest, also yaoi. And he was already yaoi enough, he couldn't become more yaoi than he was. At least that's what he claims. However, Bibi has been claiming since forever that Khamenei had yaoi nuclear missiles. And in fact, he also did this, Bibi, with his ex George Bush with the war in Iraq, which Bush said that he regretted. And it's implied that this is because they did not find any yaoi WMDs. So this entire time there's been a will they won't they with striking the Middle East that has been fueled by Bibi saying this over and over and over again. But Omega Trump, because of his yandere tendencies and his love for Bibi, that is the strongest love we've seen yet, was the only one who actually did it for his Omega on Omega love. And it gets even worse, because Omega Trump said that the President of the United States would only do this if this.
our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective.
This was before he became president. He was calling out yanderes in office. And now he's the yandere in office. Now, you might say, Lumie, you're telling me Omega Trump, who loves many men, who has many harems, is doing this all for his one favorite, Bibi? Yes, but also there could be another reason. Think closely. Up until now, what have I been telling you guys is Trump's favorite activity? That's right, oiling up. And what does Khamenei, although it's not Khamenei's anymore, but what did Khamenei have? That's right, Karg Island, an oily island, which is a really common occurrence for all of these politicians. And Karg Island is very important to Iran. As you can see on the screen, I put a headline about Karg Island. This is an AP news report that I will put in the video or in the description that you can probably go look at yourself. But Karg Island is important because most of the oil in Iran goes through Karg Island. It's all exported out of Karg Island. And Trump, who's very familiar with islands, had this to say about it. According to the Financial Times, in an interview, he said that his favorite thing is to take the oil in Iran. And when asked about whether or not he would take Karg Island as another Omega nest, he said maybe he will, maybe he won't. He has a lot of options for a nest, but he could take it very easily, just like he takes other men. And all of this oil that is in Karg Island goes through the Strait of Hormuz, which is why it is such a big deal that Trump keeps saying stuff like this.
But we've had regime change, if you look already, because the one regime was decimated, destroyed, they're all dead. The next regime is mostly dead. And the third regime, we're dealing with different people than anybody's dealt with before. It's a whole different group of people. So I would consider that regime change.
Where have we heard this before? With Maduro! When he kidnapped Maduro and now he has some control over the oil in Venezuela because he makes money off of it by having changed the regime of Venezuela to Delcy Rodriguez. So if after using his yandere ways to take out Khamenei, he can put in a regime that will allow him to profit off of the oil not only on Karg Island but going through the Strait of Hormuz, then he has plenty of sugar to send to his sugar baby. And that's not even the only way he can get sugar by doing this. And now you're gonna say, okay, Lumie, I get that he wants to oil up everywhere, but he's already oiled up with Maduro's oil that he took from Maduro after he kidnapped him. Why does he want to oil up with now Khamenei's oil that he wants to take from him? And there is a very good explanation for this. Look at my oily diagram. On the left here, you'll see this oil right here is grade extra light. It's Arab super light. This is the best oil that ever existed because it is not only light, but it's also sweet. That's just how they measure oils. That's why it's the best oil. However, all the way over here at the bottom is Venezuelan oil, the worst type of oil. Trump doesn't want the worst type of oil. He wants the best type of oil because politicians who oil up won't want bad oil. They want good oil to oil up with since they have so much money. Now, Iranian oil is somewhere in this section, right? It's significantly better than Venezuelan oil. And if Trump can control the Iranian oil, he will have better oil not only to oil up himself, but to oil up everybody else, which he is always really excited about. Additionally, Trump needs all the good oil that he can get because Xi Jinping, who Trump is headcanoning as his rivals to lover, has a bunch of new rare earth minerals. And Trump really wants to compete with him for energy because he wants Xi to pay attention to him. But this did not work out because following this, Khamenei-less Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz and also started striking the Gulf states, targeting their oil production facilities. Because if Trump planned to oil up without them, they would just make it so nobody could oil up at all. And this made Tsundere Trump mad because he started saying that it didn't matter anyways. people could just get their oil from him instead, even though the Venezuelan oil is still worse than the Iranian oil, and he would have made more money getting the oil from Iran. And now you're gonna say, okay, Trump loves Bibi, Trump loves oil, Trump loves Bibi in oil. This must be the only reasons he did this, right? There must be no other reason he struck Iran. But that's where you're wrong. There is one thing I have not mentioned yet. Trump might love being the sugar daddy to Bibi's sugar baby, but there's one thing he loves more than providing Bibi with sugar: getting his own sugar! Trump is manipulating the market! You see, if Omega Trump and Omega Trump's friends and family have stock in oil, and Trump knows that the world's oil, most of the world's oil, passes through the Strait of Hormuz, then he can force the Strait of Hormuz to close by causing conflicts with Iran. This makes it harder to oil up because the Strait of Oiling Up is closed, which will increase the scarcity and thus the price of oil and skyrocket the oil stocks. And don't worry, I'm not just alleging oiling up manipulation, I'm gonna show you oiling up manipulation. Because 15 minutes before Trump made his Gossip Girl post about talking with Iran, which we will talk about later, this happened. And shout out to CoffeeZilla for getting this for us, because I didn't want to pay for the Financial Times. So if you look at this chart over here, you'll see that the trading volumes spiked right here and right here, both 15 minutes before Trump made his post, which is this line right here on both. And this not only happened here, but also all over Polymarket. And Polymarket, well, JD Vance had this to say about Polymarket.
This idea of replacing Iran with Italy in the World Cup.
I don't think about it too much.
Apparently it's a proposal.
Let Marco make his poly.
Marco, could you make a...
Now, they're saying it was all a joke, but I'm saying I didn't even say it. They're the ones who said it, so take that how you will. So Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, and then they start charging tolls in Chinese yuan, which, remember, Trump has a one-sided rivals to lovers resource arc with. And this makes the concept of Trump bombing Iran for the Strait more pointless because they were trading in USD, and now it's just closed and trading in yuan, so yeah. But now the strait is closed, and all of the other Haramis, specifically the NATO Haramis, are pissed because Trump keeps begging them to help him reopen it. Here are some examples of Trump begging the NATO Haramis to help him with the Strait of Hormuz, but we're not going to read them out loud because this is not a begathon. And here's what the Haramis responded with. Nobody liked that, especially Macron, who pointed out, I don't want to provide a running commentary of an operation the Americans have decided on their own with Israel. He's saying, Trump, we know that your favorite is Bibi. That's not how a harem is supposed to go. This isn't how you build a proper harem. And if you're not going to build a proper harem, then we're not going to harem with you either. In fact, until you fix it and stop focusing so much on Bibi and give the rest of us attention, we're not gonna give you any attention. And Trump is over here mad because he's expecting the Haramis to always come help him with his Omega heat no matter what. But they're not helping him with his Omega heat. And so he's getting really sensitive and he's really lashing out. For instance, he is really mad at Starmer. And Starmer has never even been in the political yaoi that much because he always stays in the back. But just look, here's what Trump said.
And I'm not, by the way, I'm not happy with the UK either. UK has been very, very uncooperative with that stupid island that they have.
And it's not just Starmer that he is targeting. It's all of NATO! As you can see here, he says that they are a paper tiger and that he's really considering pulling out. All because they failed his loyalty test.
I'm so disappointed in NATO because this was a test for NATO. This was a test. You can help us. You don't have to, but if you don't have, if you don't do that, we're going to remember. Just remember this in a number of months from now. Remember my statements. We learned about other allies. We learned that other allies weren't there. We didn't need them, but they weren't there if we did need them.
And he took it a step further. He's even targeting the Yuri route! Because he mentions Japan in these posts, right? So Takaichi, seeing that he mentioned her and knowing that she is BFFs with Trump, goes over to the White House to talk to Trump. And what does Trump say? His Omega heat gets him so mad that he says this!
Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right?
But because Takaichi doesn't want to fight with Trump, in response, she only says this.
Donald and I are the best buddies to realize this shared goal.
Japan is back.
That they are still BFFs, even though Trump insulted her, which could create a rift between her and Meloni's Yuri relationship because Meloni does not approve at all. She says that Trump's Yandere plan in Iran is part of a dangerous trend and criticizes him, which really proves, unfortunately, it is not Yowie and Yuri. It is Yowie versus Yuri. The only exception to this is Xi Jinping, who Trump says that he is going to give a big fat hug to after he opens it up for him. And by it, I mean the Strait of Hormuz, or as Trump likes to call it, the Strait of Trump.
They have to open up the Strait of Hormuz. Excuse me for this. I'm so sorry. Such a terrible mistake. The fake news will say he accidentally said, no. There's no accidents with me, not too many.
Obviously, Bibi is not his only favorite. And speaking of favorites, all of these Hermes are mad because they know that Trump is doing all of this just for Bibi, not only so he can oil up Bibi, but so he can get sugar for Bibi and himself. But you might be wondering, all this for Bibi, but where has he even been? The answer is prostate cancer! Now everybody has seen these AI clips of Bibi.
נענית ישראלית, כל הכבוד. טוב, גם לא מגיע קצת. יאללה, לכולכם מגיע. יצאתם להתעורר קצת? כן. יפה מאוד.
Look at the video closely. Watch his ring. It disappears. He does a magic trick. Bibi, I didn't know Bibi knew magic, but now I do. So everybody has been calling out this AI, saying that maybe Bibi was killed the same way Khamenei was killed. But that wasn't true, because it came out recently that what happened was that Bibi got prostate cancer 2 months ago, and they hid it because of the war in Iran. Also, as a side note, I think Bibi got so angry about his prostate diagnosis because it was a core part of his Omega identity and he really needed it, that he took it out on President Joseph Aoun of Lebanon, who he struck. And then Trump said that he had achieved peace between Bibi and Aoun. And obviously, this was him taking the opportunity to say that he could solve another war with his Omega wiles, even though he still can't solve the war in Iran that he started. And I think that Trump must have already known about this because Bibi and Trump are in an Omega on Omega love relationship, which means that they must tell each other everything about their Omega needs. One of Trump's needs being Bibi's prostate! And he must have been so worried that he started gossiping about Iran, saying that he and Iran were in peace talks, also to get his sugar, but saying that he and Iran were in peace talks. As you can see here, he says, I am pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had, over the last 2 days, very good and productive conversations. But Iranian officials saw this and were confused. They said that this had never happened before. They had never talked with Trump. Trump had never acted Omega-like to them. There had been no talks. Here's an example of how it probably looked when Trump was using his Omega powers to get talks. But they refused and said they hadn't talked to him. So he said something crazy that I feel more government action should have been performed on, because that's insane. That's the President of the United States saying that. That is insane. And I guess these were his Omega tendencies popping out and he really wanted people to pay attention to him. Or it was just another desperate attempt to get sugar baby funds. But either way, insane. And Iran did not like that, so they said that they were ready. But then Trump backed out again, which is common for an Omega of his type, and said that, subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran agreeing to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz, I agree to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. This will be a double-sided ceasefire. As long as they open it up, he agrees that he won't blow it up. So to do peace negotiations, he sends J.D. Vance, who has not gotten play in ages. And J.D. Vance says this.
The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement, And I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could, and they have chosen not to accept our terms.
That he still didn't get any play. Back to the couch for JD Vance. Eventually, they make a peace deal, and Trump opens it up for everybody, which is very classic of him to do. Except, he is still using a plug, the US blockade, just for Iran in the Strait. Or not so straight. But at least the Strait of Hormuz is open. Just kidding! The Strait is closed again! Because Trump says that Iran has been violating the ceasefire, so he really wants to now seal it up tight. I told you he was putting a plug in there. You didn't listen to me. I told you. So where are we now? Full circle! Right back where we started! With the Strait of Hormuz closed and also told. But one thing is for sure, Trump's Yandere plan to make Bibi happy by taking out Bibi's competition, Khomeini, did succeed. So Khomeini is officially out of the political Yowie dating sim master diagram, which I will show you guys an updated version of next time. So see you later! Bye, Luas!